Hi, I'm Devin.
And I'm Darren.
And this is 10-Minute Tabletop News, where we give you the 3 biggest stories in tabletop from the past week so you can get back to stacking dice, making characters, and playing the game. Darren, we were talking before this, and our first story, you're not familiar with this property.
I mean, I know of it, all right?
It's impossible not to know of it. So the announcement for the beginning of the Kickstarter for the Free Leagues, the Walking Dead universe role-playing game.
I mean, yet another huge IP moving into tabletop RPG space.
Absolutely. And Hunters Entertainment is leading this. The last time I saw a really big intellectual property get licensed to a game publisher and go to Kickstarter, to my memory, was Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Okay, but
that did $9 million.
But why would a huge franchise need a Kickstarter? I mean, do they need...
Absolutely, yeah. It's mainly because these franchises and these IPs aren't actually going to produce the product.
Oh,
it's being licensed by a game publisher. So Modiphius licensed tons of different IPs. Modiphius licensed Star Trek, Fallout, Conan the Barbarian, John Carter of Mars. A lot of their entire suite is things that like Dune is also licensed. And it's funny, you'll hear a lot of people who've designed games for intellectual properties like this, and the people that are like the licensees, like the holders of this IP, they don't even understand like some of those details. They're like, well,
they're like, yeah, sure, seems fine. Have fun, kids.
I've heard some funny stories about pushback about well, you can't do that because that's not okay in world. Well, that's how a role playing game works.
Yeah.
So it is usually very trusted that you're seeing like an actual game designer having their hands on the IP to actually deliver something people want to play.
Yeah, and this will be the first zombie-based tabletop RPG since the 90s?
Well, there's definitely been a lot others, but probably one of the biggest ones is All Flesh Must Be Eaten.
That's what I'm thinking.
And that launched in 1999.
Yeah.
But if I think about it, there's no real fresh zombie games that come to mind.
Yeah.
Especially ones that have as much weight as The Walking Dead. I mean, The Walking Dead has 7 shows.
Yeah.
The Walking Dead is not... It was a comic book that became a TV show. It's got several video games, mobile games, the Telltale games, board games, a card game, and now it's going to have a tabletop game. So
yeah.
The Walking Dead is a huge thing.
It is one of those franchises that even if you don't partake in it, you do. I know all about The Walking Dead. I know all the plot points and what happened to everyone. I feel like I could play this tabletop RPG and be like, oh yeah, I know who that is. That's the guy that did the spell bet.
Yeah. And it's being put out by Free League, which people love. And Free League does some really good fight to lose games. Games where
survival.
Your character isn't gonna make it.
Yeah.
The chance of you making it is they do Alien.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking with this kind of game. I was like, if it's going to be a zombie-based tabletop RPG, I was thinking, especially coming on the heels of The Last of Us, it's going to be very survival, working together against something, but also very dire.
Right.
Perhaps. If you like stress and betrayal, then come on down.
Also, I said this wrong, but Mothership is not Free League. Alien is Free League. Okay. But Alien the RPG, which is also, a huge IP, but isn't as big as The Walking Dead. It is I think a cult favorite. Everyone knows Alien, but The Walking Dead. And here's the thing: they're going to do a tie-in to the actual Walking Dead universe with an actual play. So a canon tie-in. Yeah, the actual play will be canon to the Walking Dead universe.
Oh,
yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that must be awesome for fans of The Walking Dead to feel actually and literally a part of something that is canon within the universe. Yeah. How fun. Total sandbox vibes, right? But in the best possible way.
So I'm really excited to see what happens with this. I think it's huge news for tabletop.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna bet you $5 right now that it supersedes Avatar: The Last Airbender as far as raised.
I totally think
and that's not because I think it's worth more to raise more. It's more that tabletop has gotten bigger and Walking Dead has gotten bigger, and so I think
I just think The Walking Dead is bigger.
Yeah,
everyone I know likes it. All age groups. Yeah, all, everything.
It's got to do 9 million or more then.
You heard it here. Challenge thrown down.
Moving on to other news, 1D&D released their latest playtest, and people aren't too stoked about it.
Yeah, it's not looking so fun.
Well, here's it is a playtest, so
yeah.
keep that in mind. But the backlash or the the critical feedback has been, it's just streamlining 5e.
Yeah, which honestly, that's a bummer to hear, because that feels like the smart economic decision, but not the fun and most interesting option, which is like an expansion should be building upon what you already have, making it better, growing from, third-party publishers, all this wonderful stuff that you've gotten over the years and creating something better. But to just create something like easier, it's kind of it smells of boardroom.
One of the things that people are most upset about is the druid under certain levels. Now I think it's under level 5 or 7. When you turn into a creature, you just choose one of 3 stat blocks: a water creature, a land creature, or an air creature. And you just get that stat block. It's like bestial strike, bestial bite. And it feels really bland.
That's my face right now.
I know.
Do you see? No one's playing a druid because they don't want a complicated gameplay. Has anyone played a druid? You're like, going through all your spell cards, Googling things. It's like, that's what you sign up for. It's fun.
And again, I think, and I don't know what the thinking process behind it is. It could be the idea that they want to make the game as accessible as possible. And so they're trying to remove a lot of excess or the need for huge amounts of stat blocks. But I don't know if that's what people want out of this game.
But you can't do that. You don't have to have every creature as a druid. If you wanted to play a simple druid, be like, I just turn into a bear.
Yeah.
And a lion. That's it.
Right.
And I'm just going to keep these 2 cards. You solved it.
But again, D&D is one of those games that does put a lot of onus on the game master or the dungeon master to solve problems.
Right.
So creatures that don't have stat blocks, dungeon masters have to kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a conversation at the table. And I think the idea is they want to make things as easy for DMs as possible. When I think that's not what people are looking for with this type of game.
Yeah, hopefully creating more DMs so more people can play, since that seems to be the problem. # start playing games.
So we'll see what continues to happen, but there wasn't a whole lot of love for the latest playtest materials from 1D&D.
There's just not a whole lot.
But on the other side of that, just kind of talking about 5e streamlined, it seems that Black Flag also got a lot of response that was like, this feels more like Dungeons & Dragons 5.5 in their playtest release. So maybe we're seeing 1D&D is going to the streamline, and Kobold Press is going towards the not crunchier, but more detailed, more options, things like that, with a 5.5.
And we'll see what wins.
I know. And then, of course, moving on to our last piece of news. MCDM announced this week that, yes, they are, in fact, working on their new tabletop RPG.
Yeah.
Untitled. I wonder what kind of name they're going to give. They have some fun names for their stuff.
Yeah. I have faith they'll come up with a pretty slamming title.
But MCDM is probably maybe in the top. They're definitely in the top 10 of 5e creators. They're not up there with Kobold Press, because Kobold Press puts out so much stuff. They have but they are MCDM is the 55th highest Patreon account total.
Yeah.
Their Arcadia magazine is beloved. They have amazing writers coming there. It's very gosh, it feels almost like artisanal. It almost feels like artisanal
D&D content.
5e supplements.
Do you want a little extra?
Everything is just it's so beloved on how they approach everything. And I think a lot of people that loves that MCDM are excited for what they're going to build because of that.
Yeah, and I think this is just another part of, oh my gosh. Another phase of the exodus, kind of, from Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah.
They laid it all down, and everyone took that sign to be like, I was waiting for the sign to do and he says that actually in his video, this was the sign that I took, that I need to do my own thing. I can do my own. I'm a game, I'm a designer.
Yeah.
I can make a system based on everything I've taken from 5e and make it better and how I would do it.
Matt Colville, he was saying in the video where they announced it that he for a long time was wanting to release their own system, and the OGL crisis kind of just moved up that timeline.
Exactly. Yeah.
And a big thing is he's been designing games forever, from video games to other tabletop RPGs. Does a lot of writing, and I think Strongholds and Followers did like 2 million. Kingdoms of Warfare did like 1.8, something like that. Flea Mortals did over 2 million on Kickstarter. So he's had a lot of success. There's a lot of people that love the way that his studio makes things.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting with a tabletop RPG game system that's coming out with someone who's so experienced in 5e to the point to design content for them, to design content that essentially like fixes the problems that he sees in it, while meanwhile when D&D is like streamlining it. I'm kind of curious to see how those two will play out.
And I think there's something he said that really kind of sends it home is he felt, and you were talking about this too, that D&D is limited by its history.
Yeah, like it's based on 1970s lore that in order to stay within their brand and stay recognizable within the universe that they created, they're kind of beholden to it. It kind of weighs them down in a sense, and he's totally free from that.
Right?
Like he can start from scratch.
And having made all these other games, he thinks about like the fiction of those games. When he's written for Dune, Star Trek, etc., you think about the fiction and you create rules that fit the fiction. So he's saying it's gonna be high fantasy, heroic high fantasy. And so but it's taking a holistic look. It's like not even relying on 5e stuff and really figuring like, hey, how should I approach this? How do you think about armor? How do you think about movement? How do you think about attacking? And that's fun. And the last thing I really like what he says is he thinks that any game master eventually becomes a game designer in the sense that they want to tweak things because of how the table plays. Yeah.
And I mean, and it's also another sign of really big people no longer making content for Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah,
secondary.
For 5e.
For 5e, like secondary, the secondary or third-party publishers and stuff like that.
So we're seeing it with Kobold Press. We're seeing it with Matt Colville. See with a number of other publishers. So it's going to be really interesting to see all these other games come out. And it's going to be really interesting not to see kind of like this other support that usually happens with their
like they're no longer going to be improving the content. They're going to be competing with it.
Yeah.
So...
but again, it goes to show, I think a lot of people are learning, like, the fiction that you have that you want to tell, there's different systems that allow you to tell that.
Yeah. Just make it yourself.
Hey, thanks for joining us here at 10 Minute Tabletop News. My name's Devin.
I'm Darren.
And if you want to support the show, head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/Total Party Chill. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.